Alright, so let's get into some retail heavens. In this, we're going to cover retail heaven and London Open knockout. Just to be completely honest with you, these are, especially if you miss the trade at the beginning of the day, these can tend to be pretty boring days. Obviously, it's nice if you catch them at the top, but if you don't, then yeah, these tend to be pretty boring days. So we'll go over when to expect them, why you should expect them, and how to trade them. This is going to be like the basic bit, and then when we cover something a bit later on, you will then get a better understanding of how to trade them. So this is just sort of like what to expect, going through the cycles, going through the markups, all of that sort of stuff. So let's jump right in. So this is the day, obviously, same as always, time frame in the top left, and the date in the top left also. Okay, so when can you expect a retail heaven or a London knockout? Well, normally you're going to expect them after you've taken significant liquidity on the higher time frame. And also all of our concepts work on the higher time frame. So the same way that on the lower time frames you want to see like your build up, your inducement with vector candles, like you want to see that on the higher time frame as well. So that's why we get, okay, so this is our major inducement. You can also see before then we've got this build up into what? Very, very clean. What are these? Vector candles, right? So depending on how Asia builds the next day, so for example in this case we can see that Asia just continues the move, we can begin to expect either a retail heaven or a London knockout, and we'll go into that London knockout in a little bit. So how would we go marking up a day like this? Well, as you can see, the basic premise of London knockouts and retail heavens is that, let's first start off with retail heaven. So let's say this is Asia. You had like a significant inducement the day before, and then Asia just kind of continues the move. So we're not really looking to take any reversal trades. What we're actually looking for is you're going to be looking for your build up, inducement, so your continuation inducement, possible mitigation on the left, and then continue lower. Like I said, retail heavens are honestly the most boring daily cycle because it's pretty much you either catch it at the top or you don't. Obviously there are some ways to like get in here, but it's not, how do I say it? It's not very fun, to be honest. It's just price just moves in one direction, so you know it can be a little bit boring. But we'll actually cover later on in week 3, we will cover this, as this is actually an additional confluence, and then after we've covered that, I'll go over some retail heavens and London knockouts that also show you how to use the additional confluences like our entry helper to help you, because that actually becomes very important. But yeah, let's just go over what we can see. So obviously we have Asia builds the long downtrend, and then coming into London Open we're creating a channel. We come up, induce that channel high, mitigate this also rests. There's also an additional confluence with this, but we'll get into that later. And then again, it's just kind of rinse and repeat of the same sort of stuff. So channel, induce the channel high, mitigate, same here, channel, induce the channel high, mitigate. Probably wouldn't take this one because it's very late in the day. This is your London close, of course. So this is like very late in the day. You sort of expect end of day consolidation. So yeah. Let's go on to another one. So AUD/USD 5th of May 2022. So let's take a look at the higher time frame now. This one is amazing on the higher time frame. Look at all your channel, and then you just have one day where price is just like vectors through all of this liquidity. Look at this momentum. How many people do you think are trying to get in buys, buying, you know, SLs here, SLs here, SLs here. This here brings in all the breakout traders. So now we've got to think, okay, all the breakout traders are in. This is our major inducement, and now we want to sort of trade away from it. As you can see, we take out the Asia midline. We'll be covering this in a little bit, the actual confluence, but this is actually a setup in and of itself, which will get covered in the later weeks as well. And it combines really well with retail heavens. And it's just a very nice setup. So how would we go sort of marking this up? Because again, it's going to be a lot of continuation inducements. We're not so much going to be looking for reversals. So let's sort of go over how we'd mark this up. All right. So you can see, I think you can start to see why these days are some of the boring ones. Yeah, they'll be part of your trading. So, you know, it's not, we have to show you everything. We can't just show you the really, really beautiful stuff. Like, even though this is very nice in terms of retail heaven, again, we much prefer like our LIT starter kits or like other daily cycles, because it's more enjoyable to ping pong a little bit. But yeah, so let's go into this. So again, channel inducing the Asia midline high. What time is this? Well, it's going to be Frankfurt. And then again, we have a channel, induce it low, build up, and then again we have this mitigation. This probably isn't something that you take normally, but you actually have an additional confluence through the entry helper, which we will be getting onto, we will be covering like a bit later. And then again, same thing, channel, induce channel low, induce channel high, mitigate, continue lower. And as you can see, you see the theme of these days, it's just a continuation away from the major. Doesn't necessarily have to be major, it can be medium or very significant, but yeah, it's a continuation away from our significant inducement. All right, perfect. So let's go over another one. So M5, Euro GBP, 18th of March. So here you can see it's a lot of the same. Here is our H1 time frame, and you see we had this significant point, and then we were channeling throughout this day, induce the channel low, come into a likely higher time frame SMT, give the reaction. Okay, now what's going to happen? People are going to be looking for buys from here, and then look again, notice all the vector candles. Lovely. Look at that, that is insane how many people are going to be trying to follow that momentum. So everyone's going to be looking for buys. So how would we mark this day up? Well, with the higher time frame in mind, it will look like this. So obviously we don't really trade Asia, but then you've got your build up, induce it low, induce it high, another build up, induce low, induce high. Again, on the M5, there's no real entries here. It'd be quite tricky, but you can go to the M1 and there will definitely be entries. And then again, of course, build up, very clean, induce that build up high into you get in on a mitigation like this, come back down. Again, the RR is not that great, so wouldn't really focus on this. Plus, it's very late in the day, so there's not too much to sort of look at. But yeah, basically, once we show you the entry helper, you'll see how trading days like this can become like a bit nicer. Again, it's not like the nicest thing in the world, but still a bit nicer, which is important. So let's go into another one. Again, M5 Euro GBP, 12th of May 2022. So this one is a little bit different. If you look on the H1 time frame that we've got, we're in a build up. We induced this build up during Asia, and then we have one final inducement at Frankfurt. So this just induces it high. As you can see, like in the other ones, after our inducement, Asia sort of pulled away like this. Same with this one here. You can see Asia pulled away. And then again, let's show you the next one. Asia pulls away, right? So we're already trading away from this inducement. But in this case here, where is it? Sorry, this one. In this case here, you can see that Asia doesn't pull away. Asia continues to build to the upside, and then come Frankfurt, we induce it high. This would have been an absolute Mona Lisa right here. If it mitigated this, like you just take this and you hold it to here, it would have been gorgeous. But let's go on. Let's go and have a look how you would mark this up. So as we can see, days like this can be very tricky. If we get an entry at the top or bottom, it's a nice lazy day. You know, maybe partial at Asia low, leave a runner, and you're chilling. You would see the medium major inducement, then understand that you should be trading away until the next significant liquidity. So you can basically partial at intraday liquidity, that may be like Asia low, something on the left maybe, and leave a runner to the next significant liquidity. Now obviously, just because, like I said, these vector candles are really important. If we've got like a structural point here, right, and the way we induce it is just really slow like this, then yeah, it's probably not going to be a very great inducement, and probably not even going to cause a pullback. But when you have like these momentum candles, same with this, like especially these ones here, right, they're perfect. Momentum into inducement, everyone's looking for longs. So these are even though, yeah, it's like the H1, these are the ones that you still want to be looking for them on H1. So let's go over this. That's our build up, inducement of Asia high. Yes, it's only minor, but look at what we induced during Asia. This, right? So here we can understand, like, okay, minor inducement may be all we need to just continue lower. So that is the Asia high. Sorry, that's Frankfurt. Obviously, ideal would be in here. Little tip: if let's say you've set your limit here, but you notice price gets to this point and then starts going, you can market execute. Sorry, you can market execute, and with, you know, stops above here, obviously you get like a slightly worse entry, but at least you're in, right? That's the most important thing. So again, this would have been another lovely trade. You've got your continuation. Inducement right here would have been lovely if we came into this mitigation. I think this was something on the entry helper as well. And then, yeah, we get to the end of the day and we expect end of day consolidation. So there you go. When you realize it's not just a one-off. So when do these happen? Well, this is 2 within a space of 2 weeks. There you go. AU, depends how many pairs you look at, to be honest. Look, 3 within a space of 3 weeks. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so that leads us on to the London knockout, which is the sort of nicer version of a retail heaven. So let's get right into it. So basically, this is Euro GBP 15th of June 2022 on the H4 time frame. So the other type of daily cycle we can expect after a significant inducement. So here we can obviously see this is very clean, very nice. Boom, boom. Our major inducement, we're trading away. I'm pretty sure we're about to take this, but let us continue. So clear that. So here it's a little bit different to the retail heavens. Here you can see that Asia has produced a very clean build up with the previous day high sitting to the left. This isn't really something that we want to take a mitigation from. Obviously it can work, but I'd never recommend setting a limit on the previous day high. You'd need to like wait for further confirmations, and the reason for this is it's just a pretty big liquidity zone. So let's wait and see what happens. So coming into Frankfurt, we come up, we induce high, and then we obviously bring in breakout traders breakout traders of the previous day high who have their buy stops there, and then also Asia, of course. So where do you think, once these guys have been tagged in, their stop losses are going to be? I'll give you a minute. Exactly right, they're going to be right here. So this should at least be our first target for the sells. Now I know you're looking at this like, ooh, but aren't these equal highs? Yeah, this is a pretty tricky one, to be honest. I didn't want to just show you like the clean ones. Obviously there are going to be times where equal highs work the same way there are going to be times where trend line works, right? But we can see that the majority of people have already been the majority of people are going to be looking for buys given this and also this. So bearing in mind we're at this point right here, so they're going to be looking for buys. So we can understand that, okay, yeah, it is equal highs. Would we prefer something like that? Of course. Did we get that? No. So I think it'd be pretty ingenuine to show you only perfect examples. There are going to be times, like, you know, 1 out of 10 times where the equal highs work, because it has to work eventually. It has to work at some point. If it never works, then no one would ever trade it, right? So let's sort of go through it. Again, it's very similar to Retail Heaven in the aspect of having to use your continuation inducements. So now here it is important to remember the higher time frame, we've had a significant inducement, so we're not going to expect reversals at this point here. It's very important to look for our continuation inducements and not just assume that, okay, these are going to cause reversals. This is a trap that many people at the beginning of their lit journey will make, and I'm sure if you speak to people once you get into the community, everyone will say at some point, yeah, I had a day where I was just buy. And it's because you can't, just because we take out a low does not mean that we're going to reverse. If that was how the market worked, then we'd be doing this all the time, right? Which would be useless. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Again, we've got our continuation inducements, possible mitigations, but nothing too clean on this day. All right, AUD from the 1st of AUD from the 21st of April 2022. This is our H4, so this is our major inducement, and let's have a look at it. So now, just because it had a major inducement to the top side does not mean that every single day will be a sell day. But what it does mean is that overall we are wanting to trade away from it. So you can see, even though, yes, we've had a major inducement here, you can still see that there are days, or sometimes periods of days, where we're getting pullbacks. And that's why looking at our intraday is very important. But what it does mean is, actually we'll get into that a little bit later. So again, we've got juicy liquidity at the previous day high. Asia has built the short channel. In this case, it's a 1, 2, 3 triple top. Let's just wait and see. Let's wait for price action to develop a little bit. Boom, right? Lovely. Frankfurt, we give the build up, sideways channel, but this also creates liquidity for later on. So when this isn't taken, remember, they need to show the liquidity. Like, let me show you. It's no good if they always take the liquidity immediately. No, they need to actually allow people to get in. So, you know, something like this, or let me draw it actually like this. So in this case here, you know, we've got our double bottom, and then we come up, we take out the previous day high. That's enticing people. Everyone's got their buy stops here. And then this is where their SLs are. And as you can see, we vector through it. When London open, that is a beauty. And then again, unfortunately, we just miss our mitigation here. Like I said, one of the things that you can do, and one of the things that we and myself do, we'll have our limit here. And then once we notice price stopping just short, yeah, we will market execute with SL up here and delete this limit. Again, you can take this as well, but you do have to be little bit careful in case it comes up to here. But if you've got like entry helper confluence or stuff like that, then this can definitely be taken. Again, we've got to think, put our retail hats on for a minute. Yeah, we've got very nice bullish momentum vectors, creating the illusion that price is going to go higher. What goes up must continue to go up, right? Obviously not, but that's how people genuinely think. You know, the trend is your friend, stuff like this. So let us continue. Right, now, why would this be a smart money trap? I'll give you a couple minutes to think about that. And then also, I want you to think about, given that we've had this very nice inducement to the top side, should we be worried about price reacting from this point here, like this, or is this going to be a false reaction? And what could sort of tell us why? I'm not going to explain this till the next slide, so if you want to like pause, maybe think about it a little bit, and then I'll go on to the next slide. So I'll just give you a couple seconds to think about that. All right, so we've obviously got a very nice inducement high, previous day high with loads of liquidity, vector candles trading away from our higher time frame inducement as well up here. So we have a very nice inducement high. Now that we've had a very nice inducement high within London Open, what can we expect? Well, we can expect to take liquidity to the downside. Where's the first liquidity? These equal lows. Should we ever take a mitigation from equal lows? No, not really. So that would be why you could expect that one to be an SMT. And then why do we expect this to be a false reaction? Well, we've had a significant inducement high combined with the fact that it's Asia low right here. So this is where everyone's SLs are going to be. Lots of stop losses here. So lots of liquidity here. So we know that we are just giving them another reason to get in. And if you also look, we have our build up, inducement, and then inducement at what timing? New York trap. Again, if it came up to here, that would be ideal, but we're not always going to get the ideal. We're not always going to get the ideal mitigation. And then obviously, could it end up playing? Of course it can, right? You know, Asia high, Asia low, these things will work. Oh yeah, double bottom. Oh yeah, you know, I've taken the breakout of Asia high. My SL's here, oh, it came close, but then continue higher. Sure, it'll maybe work, you know, a few times every now and then, but is it going to play out in the long run? And is it something that you should take in the long run? Absolutely not. So, you know, don't get worried about stuff like this. Majority of the time, vast majority of the time, it's giving you a false reaction before continuing lower. And then we get the overall push. Now, you see how understanding the potential of daily cycles can help you. Do we trade purely off the daily cycle? No. But it allows us to sort of get an idea of what we can expect and maybe prevent us from taking these silly losses. You know, really you shouldn't be taking losses like here or here because these are obvious like liquidity zones. These are obviously going to be taken out. But let's say like, you know, you're looking for like an inducement here and you're wanting to like buy this or something like that. Yeah, that's probably not the best because we understand what kind of daily cycle we have. All right, so yeah, that is it. That's all they've got. They've got the done a knockout, which we've been through, very clean, and then they've also got the retail heaven, which, you know, it's not the nicest to trade, but they can't show you too much else. We've got a couple other daily cycles, and the other daily cycles are absolutely beautiful, and they're so lovely to trade, and they're enjoyable to trade. I'll also show a bit later on in week 3, we'll go into some of the London knockouts and retail heavens, but with the entry helper. So we'll likely actually use these exact examples, but just show you how it becomes a bit more clean with the entry helper.